Hey everybody, it's Steve. Just waiting for a couple more people to join us. We are covering today um, a little bit of ways that you can determine more information about the properties. And you can kind of see, so when you're talking to somebody, you can have a little more understanding of what it is you're doing. It'll also help you look at um, how do I put it? It'll give you the rundown of exactly how you should get the links we're asking for in the forms. So in the spreadsheet in the CRM, sorry, you're going to put the links that you find online for the property. So let me show you what I mean rather than doing something else.
You want to see?
Here, present to share screen
Or,
and entire screen is easier. Fine. This one, fine. Okay, good. All right. So, and by the way, unrelated to most of what we do, but Google Earth is a very powerful free tool. I was playing with this with regard to a self storage deal that I'm looking at investing in. And you drop one of these dots here, pretty much anywhere in the world you want. And it'll tell you the place mark, latitude, longitude. It'll tell you the altitude. And you can even play with cramp relative to ground, clamp a seafloor, whatever. The other cool thing about Google Earth is it'll fly and make videos anywhere in the world as well. So unrelated to what we were doing, but kind of cool still. So when you Google an address, and I'll just Google 108 Grove Street, Wilkes-Barre, of course it comes up with, shockingly, a bunch of links. That's kind of what Google does. So the first thing is you want to know, you want in our forms, our spreadsheet, you want to store every one of these links. You want to store the overall Google link. You want to store the Zillow link. You want to store the Redfin for red. You also want to store the Google Maps link and the Google or Bing Maps. I don't really care, but I prefer Google Maps. And the Street View and the images. You want to store. I like Google Maps for the property. You want to store the Google Street View for the property. In my browser, I used to use Chrome as the default, so all the Googles came up first. Now it's Bing, so I got to type it in manually. But I want when I look at your link, when I look at your entry in the spreadsheet, entry in the CRM, I want to see all of these because it just gives us better information about the property. And you always also want to look. This little mappy thing is kind of neat, but really, I like adding the layers. I don't care as much about the terrain. The other one you want to add, and this is on REI homepage, which I'll cover my different websites in a bit. And she didn't do that crap. Okay. All right. And it's important, by the way, to use floodsmart.gov, not floodsmart.com. Floodsmart.com is a private site. Floodsmart.gov, at least at the current moment, is a government site. Floodsmart.com is there to sell you flood insurance. Floodsmart.gov is to help you understand your flood risk. And on this, and I will have a direct link to this. My web person did not put it on the my website, which is a problem. I have to address with her later. But they keep moving this damn link, which is why I want to put it on my website, because it's just a pain in the ass to do it this way. What is your flood risk? Find your risk level. Typical government website is not easy to navigate. So this is the page you want. This one right here. And I'm going to email this to her again, because this should be right on the homepage of my website. Now, when I say homepage, by the way, what I mean in homepage is reihomepage.com. This is our central website where all of our links exist, or at least will exist when she finally finishes the job. Yes, I'm a little frustrated, but what this tells you, when I want this information, actually, 457 Blackman. And this is essential information. I use this address specifically in this, and we'll cover why later. So you want to know the Google of the address. You want to know the Zillow and all the links on Google. Google, Zillow, Redfin, Google Maps, Google Street View, Realtor.com if there is one. You want to know all of them. Everyone loves Zillow and says, oh, Zillow is so great. Well, here's why Zillow. Do not ever use, I never want to hear the words, the Zestimate says. Or not never, but very, very rarely. I could sell this thing for $225,000 right now. And it said 155 for the last decade, even when it was only worth 80. Zillow is based on their algorithm is not good. So we don't care what the Zestimate says. But this is a great source for pictures of a property, to see a property. This is a great source to understand what a property is and some about what it's already sold for. This is also, if you click behind this screen and you play, their tools are not bad. You want sold, always sold. Now, I'm not asking you to run comps on properties. I'm just showing you the power of what Zillow actually does provide. You get price, you got beds and bath, home type. Well, this is diesel like all. This is a multifamily. So I only want to see multifamily. All right, so 170, 220. So I'm looking at sold multifamily, parking, square feet, whatever. If you're really limiting it to that level, that's fine. We're not in our purposes. And here they are at a map. So you can just literally go place by place and look at it. So this gives you a lot of information about the neighborhood. So does Redfin, so does Realtor.com, and they're all similar data sources, but you're putting these links in more for me later, putting them into the spreadsheet. And I think I've showed you guys the spreadsheet before, but I will again in the future thing. Now, it's funny they pull this one up as a comp. And this is actually a great comp. This is a 3-bedroom, side-by-side double. Literally a block away from the house. I mean, literally, I could probably throw a baseball from this to 108 Grove Street. And I know because I sold this building. But what I also know is this building's only half functional. It sold, I was listing it, it sold for $170,000. And only half of it was operational, and half of it needed probably $40,000 worth of work. So at the very least, if done, it would sell for $40,000 more. This one I also was involved in selling. And I know this one's fully done both sides, and it sold for $220,000. And that's why the Zestimate isn't good, is because the Zillow algorithm, and I don't think there's any way it would know that, doesn't know. This is half a functional building. This is a fully functional building. So using Zillow for comps is dangerous, but using it for information is great. Looking at the street view, you also get to understand a little bit about the neighborhood, or the aerial view. Street view, by the way, is this one, where you're actually looking at it from the street. And street view is great too. Street view is great. Well, okay, so that's not that. Of course, it's gonna mess me up. If you Google Street View, and again, Bing Street View, I don't care the Street View, but I prefer Google because I understand it better. But using Street View is we can look at what the neighborhood looks like and see, okay, neighborhood is relatively well maintained. Let's go check out the cars. Okay, cars aren't too terribly old. Cars aren't too terribly dumpy. They can never seem to keep anything in this commercial space. I don't know why. But okay, so Street View tells you a little bit about the property. And this happens to be our subject property here. So I can go up and I can look and say, now this property does not have any parking. However, we've always talked we could add parking here. It would only be a space or two, so we never decided it was worth it. Nobody ever cared because literally the street's always empty. But you get to know a neighborhood this way. You get to understand, especially if you're not local to the community. On the other one, the aerial, what I'm looking for here, and this is not stuff you have to do. I want to be very clear. This is not your responsibility. And I don't know if, sorry guys, I had you on mute, my bad. But you're looking for, okay, they've got pools, the pools look functional. So they probably have enough money to maintain a pool in that neighborhood. I'm looking for overgrown dilapidateds in the neighborhood. Okay, no, so this is a pretty reasonable neighborhood. This is a C-grade neighborhood. This is not a special neighborhood. This is very common as a neighborhood. Somebody keeps texting me, so I'm probably doing something wrong. So we've now learned the neighborhood's reasonable. It's C-grade. There's a little commercial next down, a couple doors down. We've looked at it, and this is what I want to be able to see when I look at what you give me. I mean, I can Google it, and I can click around, and I can go, let me search for Zillow. But I want it all to be right there. Click, 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 click. I can see it. I can understand it. This has now told me about the neighborhood. I've learned what Zillow thinks about it. I've learned what Zillow has on it for data. I've learned what all the content. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to okay, so if it's in my market, I'm going to use the MLS. If it's in my market, I'm going to use my MLS. But probably it's not, so I'm probably using PropStream. And let me just make sure that this is what's showing here. Of course, it's so I'm going to PropStream. And I'm going to enter in, and I'm going to look up the values on PropStream. So this is all what's happening after you give me the information. And I will walk you through this process once you start giving me leads. In PropStream, we enter the address. Let's see, PropStream says worth 203, which is probably not far off. Probably 20 something, maybe 2 teens. Oh. Interesting. They came up with the same estimated value. So It's because of the other. It's an automated value. Automated value. Now it says no comparables. I don't know. It's having trouble with the data today, I guess. But whatever. The property would show a list of comparables. We'll go to neighborhood and click, and it'll show you what things are sold for in the neighborhood. So that's what we do behind the scenes in. That's what we do behind the scenes in comping properties. And the evaluation boils down to, and this is what I did tell you I was going to show you this today. And before I go to comping values, flood zone, the flood map, this one. This is huge. And in fact, I bought a building without doing this, and it's costing me an extra $2,000 a year in flood insurance, which is literally kind of screwing my profits. Because I went to the location, and I've lived here for far too freaking long. Sorry, I was looking at a different building here real quick. Is that the Sawtooth? It might be. No, that's the thing. Okay, so let me flip it. Interesting. Okay, I'll look at that later. But I lived here for too long, and I looked at this and I said, "There's no flood zone here," and I went ahead and bought the building without looking. I leaped before I looked, and because of that, I didn't study and realize that my building is in the flood zone, in the bad flood zone. By the way, when you're doing flood zones, if it has A on it, is bad, bad flood zone. Now, in practicality, this property will not flood. In practicality, this property has not probably flooded since 1972, if it even did that. But from a statistical engineering floodplain map, it's in the most expensive flood zone you can find. Special hazard flood zone, not other areas of flood zone. So that means that a mortgage company is going to require flood coverage on the property. So that's where I screwed up. So you always want to include this as well. And this link probably won't save if you just click this. So you also make a note, flood zone A. And if you don't do this, that's fine, because this is a little bit more advanced. But the point is, give me as much tools on the property as possible, as many tools on the property as possible. And then we're going to run through, and I'm going to do this on a blank sheet, even though I have a spreadsheet for this. I'm going to show it to you the easy way real quick. And so we're going to add a sheet. So let's see, ARV, pad. These are the things in a flip. Now, so ARV is after repair value. So when you're looking at the Zillow, for example, let's assume these are two identical comparable buildings. They probably are by looking at them. 170 to 220. These were sold in the area, assuming they were both finished. Just so really, if we added 40 grand to this, 30 grand to this, it's 200. So because that's what it's going to cost to finish this, 200 to 220. So my ARV is 210. I'm in the middle of the two ARVs. Now pad, I'm going to say 0.7. This is the pad that every flipper needs to have. Actually, 0.3, because it's the opposite. It's the pad, not the remainder. This is the last 30% is what the flipper needs to have in order to make money in the deal. It is not the flipper's profit. Okay, that 63,000 represents 13% to the lender, represents money for the realtor when they sell the property away from them, represents a little bit of holding costs, and represents their profit. So they were going to make like 10 grand on this. That's their plan. So that means the most they can have in there is this minus that. That's what your flipper max in. Then you have your rehab. You have all this stuff for the holding costs. And this is flip max offer, wholesale LP. So let's say it's 50,000, and let's say all the rest of this is just together 5,000. The taxes while you're owning it, the insurance while you're owning it, the sewer while you're owning it, whatever. So the flipper's max offer, the most the flipper can offer on it, is this minus all these numbers. So 210 minus 63 became 147. That's the most the flipper can be into it for. 50,000 rehab, 5,000 this, so 147 minus 55,000 brings us to here. I want to make a $10,000 wholesale fee. So then the most that I can tell you to offer for it, the most that I can authorize an offer for, is $82,000. Now, to go back to this property, use this property as an example, I would have given him $82,000 for this. I offered him $100. He didn't want it. He wanted more. So this gives a very safe estimate of what it's worth as a flip. Now, as a rental, okay, so let's say the gross rent is 2,000, and we're going to actually push this all down a row because we have to annualize the gross rent. And let's say tax, insurance, sewer, all this crap is, let's say that's $6,000, $5,000. Okay, fine. So your adjusted gross income is 24,000 minus some of these things, 19,000. Now your MVM is whatever maintenance, vacancy management combined you want. So it's your gross rent times that. That's your net operating income. So that's after you put aside 30%, in my case, maintenance, vacancy management, and you take out all your hard costs. That's what the building's worth. If I want to make, the landlord wants to make a 10% cap rate, which is every market is different on what the cap rates are. That's a whole different conversation on a case-by-case basis. We would just have to determine, when done, this building's worth $118,000. So we've taken the gross rent, we've annualized it, we've taken out the hard costs and ended up at 19,000. We've taken out our preferred. No, if we're wholesaling it, we're going this. If we're trying to sell it, we're changing this to a 0.1, because you'll see when I reduce this, my numbers go up. Whenever you reduce what you're dividing by, your numbers go up. Whenever you reduce your costs, your numbers go up, obviously. So this building's worth 118,000 finished, and don't get into the details because I'll teach you that later. I'm just using this as an example. So in finished, this building's worth 160 to me in the way I do my math for my rentals. To the rest of the world, it's probably worth 220. I beat up my vacancy management guys because I want to be sure I make money. Why do I want to be sure I make money? Because when I screw up like this, I'm not underwater, which is kind of a funny comment, but okay. So my cap rate, and I really didn't need this actually. I should have just done this like this. I should do this equals this over that. Now if my rehab is again 30, let's say 40,000, then my max landlord. Now my rehab and my holding costs during my rehab. I don't know what it's doing wrong here. That is that minus that. Okay, so 120. I want to make a $10,000 wholesale fee. Max wholesale offer of 120 minus 10. 110. Now as a landlord, I can pay up to 120 for the building. As a flipper, I can only pay 92 based on these numbers. And this all depends what you think your rents are going to be. What drives a lot of it. So if I use 2,200, the market, that all depends. But the point is, this tells us, and I do this for every property. I do the flip valuation and the landlord and the rental valuation. And somewhere between them, if I did 2,400, they're 101. So I can maybe 101, maybe 82. Now, when I'm making an offer on a property, I ain't going above the smaller number. So the reason I don't go to the max wholesale offer of rental because it's bigger is because if I overpay the seller and I'm wrong, someone's mad because I just overpaid for a building. Meaning, if I underpay and I get the seller to buy it, everyone's happy they made more money. But this is how we evaluate properties as a flip. ARV minus 70% minus whatever it costs to do the flip gives you the max the flipper can pay. Take out your wholesale fee, gives you the max that we can pay. Rent with all this other math gives you the max we can pay. The max the landlord can pay, the max the flipper can pay. So, all right, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today is what you're doing to collect information. You are not doing the spreadsheet, by the way. Do not worry about it. I'm just simply showing it to you as a preview. What you are doing when you get a property, and either before we talk to the seller or after we talk to the seller, you are collecting all of these links into the spreadsheet. And for those of you who are just catching up now, I will do a separate tutorial because I'm having people come on literally every day now. So I'm going to start a tutorial, and I should have it done by next week, where everyone can catch up to where we stand now. So what I want you guys doing, you've gotten your Facebook profiles. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to cover. I may not have my Facebook logged in here. So, all right, so you got your Facebook profile, which is a business profile, business page, they call it, off of your main personal profile. You've got your phone numbers. Now you need to start getting on the phones. Now I'm going to jump into my sheets again real quick. And I'm going to show you what's the word? This is what data looks like when you download. Who called it? And by the way, you guys can call these lists. I can give you these lists. Full name, first name, last name. This is what you get when you order data. So we have their phone numbers. We might have additional phone numbers. And then way over here, you start to see number of units, bedrooms, bathrooms. You'll notice these are the questions in our script. And remember, guys, you're not calling them without me right away. You are calling them with me until you're comfortable. It's watch some, do some, then you're free. What some is, 1, 5, 20, totally open. Depends on you. But you're answering these kinds of questions. And no, you're not trying to do this form on the call. You're writing it down on a notepad, piece of paper, I don't know, web forms, Google Docs, whatever, because your conversation will never go this linear. If you try to say to somebody, okay, well, how many units? Well, it's 3 units. But you have to understand that it used to be a storefront, it used to be, okay, and it's got, 4,000 square feet and a flat roof, and it's got newer kitchens, and then they'll come back. You're trying to go, oh, let me fill this in, let me fill that in. And then let me go back here. Your brain's going to explode. So write it down separately and fold it back in because you've got to keep focused on them. But you're putting all of this in there. And then more to the right, you're putting in all these links here so that everybody who follows you, and guys, if we share one of these spreadsheets and someone says called by, you leave it alone. Go to the next one. There's plenty of data. So we can get you calling right now. Let me know where you're at. Let me know how I can help you. I know a lot of you guys are in class and you don't want to deal with this yet, and that's fine. Take these as examples. Take these as more information. Focus on getting your license. I'll see you next week, 10:30 Wednesdays.